All right, let's dive deep into the world of Naval Ravikant today.
Sounds good.
We're going to be dissecting excerpts from his almanac.
Okay.
You know, this Silicon Valley guy who seems to have figured out not just the money game, but also like the happiness game.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to unpack that, see if
Yeah.
there's some secret sauce in there for all of us.
What I find fascinating about Naval is that he redefines wealth.
Okay.
It's not just money, it's not status.
Right.
It's about owning those assets that generate income while you're sleeping.
Yeah, he has that killer quote, right? You're not going to get rich renting out your time.
Yeah, it's a real wake-up call.
It's like, whoa, okay, you got to rethink this whole 9 to 5 thing.
Totally. It's about shifting your mindset.
So how do we do that? How do we actually build those assets?
Well, Naval talks a lot about leverage.
Okay.
He sees it as this force multiplier, amplifying your skills and your judgment.
I like that. Force multiplier.
Yeah, and he breaks it down into 3 types.
Yeah.
Labor, capital, and code, and media.
So labor leverage, that's basically like hiring people to work for you.
Yeah, the classic entrepreneur image, right? Building a team.
Exactly.
But Naval points out even that has limits.
Okay.
You're still kind of capped by, how many people you can manage well.
Right.
Plus, you're still trading time for money, just on a bigger scale.
Okay, so then there's capital leverage.
Right, which is using money to make more money.
Which feels like, well, you got to have money to play that game.
Yeah, it often requires permission.
Huh?
Investors, loans, that kind of thing. And there's always tons of competition.
So where's the real game changer?
Naval says it's in code and media.
Code and media. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Think about it. Software, books, even a podcast like this.
Okay.
You create it once, and it can work for you 24/7, reaching a global audience.
Ah, so it's about creating things that have that built-in leverage.
Exactly. It's permissionless, it's scalable.
This is how those, like, tech moguls and YouTubers are making it big.
Exactly. It's the leverage of the newly rich.
So what's the key to building those kinds of things?
Well, Naval says it starts with specific knowledge.
All right, break that down for us.
It's that unique knowledge, the skill set you have that can't be easily taught or copied.
So, like, not just being good at something, but having that special something.
Yeah, it often feels like play to you, but it looks like work to others.
Give us some examples.
So imagine a salesperson who can close any deal, a musician with natural talent,
Mm-hmm.
or someone with a, obsessive passion for, I don't know, vintage watches.
They become the go-to expert. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's about finding that thing you're, like, uniquely good at.
And passionate about.
Right, and then figuring out how to make it valuable to others.
It's like finding your unfair advantage.
Love that.
And alongside specific knowledge, Naval emphasizes judgment,
Okay, judgment meaning.
understanding the long-term consequences of your actions.
So not just being smart, but making smart choices that play out well over time.
Exactly, because a few bad decisions can wipe out years of progress, especially with all this leverage we're talking about.
Right, the stakes are higher.
So he's more about avoiding mistakes than always being right.
Interesting. So how do we get better at that, at making those smart choices?
Well, he suggests using mental model.
Mental models.
Yeah, like frameworks from evolution, game theory, psychology, all these different fields.
So it's like having a cheat sheet for making better decisions.
Kind of, but the cheat sheet is filled with deep principles, not just easy answers.
Okay, I'm with you.
And one mental model he loves is inversion.
Inversion? What's that?
It's basically focusing on what not to do.
Ah, so instead of finding the perfect path, you're avoiding the pitfalls.
Exactly. It's a way to protect yourself from those big mistakes.
Smart. But, we're not just here to talk about getting rich, right?
Right. Naval also has some pretty radical ideas about happiness.
And that's where things get really interesting.
He sees happiness as the ultimate goal, and here's the thing.
Yeah.
He believes it's an internal gain, not something you achieve through external success.
So it's not about getting that promotion, buying the fancy car.
Nope, it's about cultivating a certain state of mind.
That goes against pretty much every message we get from society.
It does. It requires a real shift in perspective.
So how do we even start to think about it that way?
Well, he compares happiness to fitness.
Okay.
It's a choice, and it's a skill. You develop it through practice.
Not something you just like stumble upon one day.
Exactly. And one of his most challenging ideas is that desire itself is a form of chosen unhappiness.
Whoa, hold on. Desire is unhappiness. That's a tough one to swallow.
It is, especially in a culture obsessed with, chasing your dreams.
Yeah, go get it, that whole thing.
But Naval argues that constantly chasing what we want actually keeps us dissatisfied.
Okay, so what's the alternative? How do you actually find happiness if you're not chasing something?
He suggests that true happiness comes from accepting what is, focusing on the present moment, and letting go of attachments to outcomes.
That sounds very philosophical.
It is, but it's also very practical.
So how do you actually live that way? What does that look like in everyday life?
He's a big advocate for practices like meditation, which he calls intermittent fasting for the mind.
Okay, interesting analogy.
And he's all about pushing yourself outside your comfort zone.
Like literally.
He actually has this funny story about taking cold showers.
Cold showers. Okay, now I got to hear this.
He started doing it because of Wim Hof, the Iceman.
Oh, yeah, I heard of him.
So Naval says he hated it at first,
I bet.
but he stuck with it because he realized it was training him to control his reactions.
So it's not really about the cold shower itself.
No, it's about proving to yourself that you're stronger than that initial discomfort.
Okay, I'm starting to see how that ties into his philosophy.
Right, mastering your mind, building resilience.
It's not about seeking comfort all the time. It's about building that mental toughness.
Exactly. And he also talks about this 5 chimps theory.
5 chip.
Yeah, the idea that you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with.
So choose your friends wisely.
Exactly. And then there's diet, focusing on whole foods.
Okay.
And exercise, he's a big fan of walking meetings.
So to recap, Naval's roadmap to happiness involves like mastering your mind, surrounding yourself with the right people, and taking care of your physical health.
It's a holistic approach, for sure.
And speaking of holistic, let's bring it back to wealth for a second.
Okay?
It's not just about making a ton of money. It's about aligning your money-making strategies with your values.
Absolutely. He's not about chasing money for its own sake.
He even says, like, if you're aiming for wealth, ask yourself, is this authentic to me?
Yeah, it has to come from a place of genuine interest.
So don't chase someone else's version of success.
Right. Find your own path.
And that ties into his thing about playing long-term games with long-term people.
Yeah, it's not about quick schemes or shady deals
It's about building something sustainable.
with people you trust and respect.
Like compound interest, he says, right?
Exactly. Those small, consistent actions, compounded over time, lead to big results.
And that applies to relationships too.
Absolutely. Building trust, building those strong bonds over time.
So it's all connected, the wealth, the happiness, the relationships.
It's all part of the same equation.
All right, this is getting deep. I love it.
Me too. It's a lot to unpack.
We're just scratching the surface here.
But it's a good start.
It is. It's giving us a lot to think about.
Definitely.
And hopefully some actionable steps to move towards that life of wealth and happiness that Naval talks about.
Yeah, it's not just theory. It's about putting it into practice.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break here. But when we come back, we're going to dive even deeper into Naval's world.
Sounds good.
So stay tuned.
We'll be right back. He even says there's enough abundance out there for everyone to succeed.
I like that. It's a good mindset.
Yeah, it's about collaboration, not just cutthroat competition.
All right, so let's shift gears a bit. Naval also has some pretty unconventional ideas about personal growth.
Oh yeah, he definitely challenges the status quo.
So what's his take on how we should approach self-improvement?
Well, one of his most provocative statements is, desire is a form of chosen unhappiness.
Whoa, that's a tough one. We're always told to chase our dreams, strive for more.
Right, but he's pointing to that inherent dissatisfaction that comes from constantly chasing external things.
It's like that Buddhist saying, attachment is the root of suffering.
Exactly. Naval suggests that true happiness comes from finding contentment in the present moment.
Accepting what is, letting go of those attachments.
Exactly. It's a radical idea, but it resonates with a lot of ancient wisdom traditions.
So how do you actually put that into practice? Letting go of desire seems almost impossible.
He advocates for practices like meditation and mindfulness.
To quiet the mind, cultivate that sense of presence.
Right, and he also encourages us to shed our identities, those stories we tell ourselves about who we are.
It's like quieting that inner critic, that monkey mind that's always chattering away.
Exactly. He sees those identities as constructs that limit our potential.
And prevent us from fully experiencing life as it unfolds.
Right. It's about being present, being open to new experiences.
Letting go of those rigid ideas about who we're supposed to be.
And that connects back to his emphasis on internal transformation, not external achievements.
True happiness comes from cultivating that inner peace and contentment.
Exactly. Remember that quote, a calm mind, a fit body, and a house full of love. These things cannot be bought. They must be earned.
It's a beautiful reminder that true wealth isn't about material possessions.
Right. And to achieve that calm mind, He's a big proponent of habits and routines that support well-being.
Like meditation, cold showers, choosing your social circle wisely.
Exactly, and he also emphasizes diet and exercise.
He's a fan of the whole foods approach, right?
Yeah, and he specifically mentions walking meetings.
To combine physical activity with productivity.
Right, he sees those small, consistent actions, like taking a daily walk or choosing a salad over a burger, as building blocks for a healthier and happier life.
So it's about being intentional with your choices, recognizing that those seemingly small decisions have a cumulative effect over time.
Absolutely, and speaking of choices, let's talk about Naval's perspective on learning and knowledge.
Okay, he's got some pretty strong opinions about education and personal growth.
Oh yeah, he's definitely not a fan of the traditional education system.
He famously said, "Read what you love until you love to read."
He believes the current system stifles creativity and critical thinking.
So he's not advocating for rote memorization or standardized tests.
Definitely not. He encourages people to follow their curiosity, explore a wide range of subjects.
And develop a genuine love of learning.
Right. He sees reading as a superpower.
A way to access the accumulated wisdom of humanity.
Exactly. But he also emphasizes the importance of building a strong foundation in core subjects.
Like math, science, philosophy.
Right. But he's not talking about just memorizing formulas or historical dates
It's about understanding the underlying principles.
and how they apply to real life.
He sees these subjects as essential for clear thinking and effective decision-making.
Exactly. And he's a huge advocate for mental models.
Those frameworks for thinking that can help you analyze situations more effectively.
Right. It's about taking those principles from different disciplines and using them as tools to navigate the complexities of life.
Using knowledge as a tool to solve problems, make better decisions, and ultimately live a more fulfilling life.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, but only if you know how to use it.
All right, let's shift gears again. Talk about Naval's insights on building wealth.
Okay, he's got some key principles that go beyond the typical financial advice.
Yeah, he's not just talking about picking stocks or investing in real estate.
Right. He has a more holistic approach to wealth creation,
We've already touched on his emphasis on building assets that generate passive income
leveraging your specific knowledge, playing long-term games with long-term people.
and his unconventional definition of wealth itself.
It's not just about money. It's about having assets that work for you.
Generating income while you sleep,
Exactly. And he ties this back to the importance of ownership.
whether it's starting a business, investing in real estate, or creating intellectual property.
He's a big believer in leverage, but he cautions against relying solely on labor leverage.
Hiring people to work for you.
Right. He sees those other forms of leverage, capital, code, and media, as more scalable and sustainable in the long run.
So it's not just about working harder, it's about working smarter.
Using those leverage points to create more impact with your efforts.
And one of the most important aspects of building wealth, according to Naval, is developing good judgment.
Exactly. It's not just about having knowledge or skills.
It's about making wise decisions that lead to positive outcomes over time.
Right. He defines judgment as understanding the long-term consequences of your actions.
Seeing beyond the immediate gratification and considering the ripple effects of our choices.
It's a skill that impacts everything from our relationships to our career decisions to our health.
So how do we develop good judgment? Is it something you're born with, or can you learn it?
Naval believes it's a skill you can cultivate.
Through experience, reflection, learning from others.
He recommends studying mental models, learning from history and philosophy, seeking out diverse perspectives.
Building that mental toolkit of frameworks and principles.
That can help you make better decisions in all aspects of life.
And one of the most important aspects of good judgment is the ability to avoid big mistakes.
Right, not just those little everyday slip-ups.
He's talking about those major decisions that can have a lasting impact.
Exactly, and he emphasizes the importance of accountability.
Taking ownership of your decisions and being willing to learn from your mistakes. So it's about being honest with yourself, recognizing where you went wrong.
And using those experiences to refine your judgment.
Now, let's shift gears once more. Talk about Naval's somewhat contrarian views on work and productivity.
Oh yeah, he's not exactly a fan of the traditional 9-to-5 grind.
He famously said, "You should be too busy to do coffee while still keeping an uncluttered calendar."
He's not advocating for filling your days with busy work or endless meetings,
It's about prioritizing, saying no to distractions.
and focusing on those high-impact activities that really move the needle,
One of his key strategies is to set a high hourly rate for yourself.
even if it seems ridiculously high at first.
What does he mean by that? Is he talking about literally charging people more?
It's more of a mental model for valuing your time.
making sure you're spending it on the right things.
If a task can be outsourced for less than your hypothetical hourly rate, delegate it.
And if a problem can be solved in less time than it would cost you to fix it, ignore it.
Exactly. It's about focusing on the 20% of activities that produce 80% of the results.
The Pareto principle in action,
Working smarter, not harder.
aligning your efforts with your highest priorities.
Now, Naval is also known for his strong emphasis on integrity and ethics in business.
How does that fit into his overall philosophy?
He sees integrity as a cornerstone of both personal and professional success.
Doing the right thing, even when it's not the easiest path.
Building a reputation for honesty and fairness.
That will pay off in the long run.
He often talks about playing iterated games.
It's the idea that when you act with integrity, you create a virtuous cycle.
Of trust and reciprocity.
People are more likely to do business with you, recommend you, support you.
When they know they can count on you to be fair and honest.
It's a long-term strategy, building lasting success.
And a good reputation, which is more valuable than money.
Naval even suggests that acting unethically can damage your self-esteem.
Create internal conflict.
So it's not just about the external consequences.
It's about the internal impact on your sense of integrity.
on your well-being.
Now, while Naval advocates for integrity, he's also a big believer in taking risks
And embracing failure.
as part of the learning process.
That seems a bit contradictory. How can you be cautious and also embrace failure?
He's not advocating for recklessness.
Okay.
He's talking about calculated risks, stepping outside your comfort zone.
Experimenting, learning from your mistakes.
He famously said, "The most successful people I know started out as losers,
He sees those early failures as stepping stones.
not roadblocks."
So it's about reframing failure as feedback
Adjusting your approach, keep iterating.
until you find what works.
And this ties back to his emphasis on accountability
Taking ownership of your decisions, both the successes and the failures.
and using those experiences to grow and learn,
He even suggests that taking risks under your own name can build credibility.
attract opportunity,
It's about putting your name on the line.
showing that you're willing to stand behind your work.
And speaking of learning and growth, Naval is a big proponent of seeking out mentors.
Learning from those who have achieved what you aspire to
He sees mentorship as a valuable resource.
for personal and professional development,
Finding those individuals who embody the qualities you admire.
who can provide guidance and support,
And he emphasizes the importance of paying it forward.
sharing your knowledge and experience to help others succeed,
So it's not just about taking, it's about giving back.
contributing to the success of others.
Creating a community of support and encouragement.
He sees success as a collective endeavor.
We can achieve far more when we work together.
Support each other, share our knowledge,
It's a beautiful vision of collaboration.
rather than cutthroat competition.
Now, let's talk about finding your purpose.
Your unique contribution to the world.
Naval believes that everyone has a unique set of talents and skills.
Experiences that they can bring to the world.
It's about finding that intersection of your strengths and passions.
And the needs of the market.
He often talks about finding work that feels like play.
Something you're so passionate about that it doesn't feel like work.
That's the dream.
Waking up every day excited to tackle your work.
But finding that kind of alignment can feel impossible.
He's a big advocate for being authentic. Follow your curiosity, experiment.
Don't be afraid to try things that might seem unconventional.
Remember specific knowledge.
Look.
That's a huge piece of the puzzle.
It's not just about finding any job you like.
It's about finding that niche where your unique skills can shine.
And it's about constantly refining those skills,
Becoming the best in the world at what you do.
even if it's something small or niche.
That mastery allows you to build leverage.
And ultimately, freedom.
Now, beyond escaping the rat race, Naval talks about saving yourself.
What does he mean by that? It sounds pretty dramatic.
It is a powerful idea,
Yeah.
and it connects back to personal responsibility.
We are responsible for our own well-being.
Physically, mentally, emotionally.
We can't rely on external sources to fix us.
It's about becoming your own best advocate.
Your own health guru, your own therapist.
In a way, yes, it's about becoming the CEO of your own life
Making conscious choices.
that support your health, your happiness, and your growth.
I like that analogy, the CEO of your own life. So what does the CEO focus on?
He talks about diet, exercise, mindfulness, relationships,
It's a holistic approach to well-being.
recognizing that all these elements are interconnected.
He even gets down to the practical level, cold showers, walking meetings, the 5 chimps theory.
He's all about actionable advice,
He wants people to actually implement these ideas.
not just think about them abstractly.
So saving yourself is about taking a proactive approach,
Making choices that align with your values.
taking responsibility for your own health and happiness,
Exactly. It's about becoming the architect of your own destiny.
not just reacting to whatever life throws at you.
And one final piece I want to touch on is judgment.
It seems to underpin all of Naval's teachings.
He really prizes this quality above almost all others.
Judgment is crucial because it guides every decision we make.
He defines it as knowing the long-term consequences of your actions
Being able to look beyond immediate gratification.
and see the ripple effects of your choices.
So it's not just about making decisions that feel good in the moment.
It's about understanding the potential impact down the line.
Good judgment is essential for navigating relationships, making career choices, even choosing what to eat.
It impacts every area of our lives.
And Naval believes we can cultivate good judgment.
Through experience, reflection, learning from others,
Reading widely, studying history and philosophy,
learning from the mistakes and successes of those who came before us.
building that mental toolkit of frameworks and principles.
That can help us make better decisions,
And one of the key principles is to focus on avoiding big mistakes.
rather than trying to always be right.
We're not going to get it right all the time.
But we can learn to minimize those major blunders.
That can have lasting consequences. Okay, so we've spent a lot of time really digging into Naval's ideas on wealth and happiness and all that.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
But one thing that keeps coming back to me is this idea of escaping the rat race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like this dream so many of us have, but Naval's take on it is different.
Right. He's not just saying quit your job and live on a beach.
Right, right.
He gets that we have these drives, these urges to work, to create, to achieve something.
Okay.
But he doesn't think those drives are bad.
So it's not about rejecting work altogether.
No, it's more about finding work that feels aligned with who you are.
So escaping that feeling of being trapped.
Exactly. Finding that true freedom.
But how do we actually do that? What are the steps?
Well, he outlines a few different paths. One is financial freedom.
Okay, the classic, make enough money so you don't have to work.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily about becoming a billionaire.
Right.
It's more about having enough to make choices based on what matters to you, not just out of necessity.
So you have the freedom to say no to things you don't want to do?
Exactly. You're not forced into anything.
What are some of the other paths he mentions?
Well, another one is what he calls becoming a monk.
Becoming a monk. Wait, is he talking about actually joining a monastery?
No, not literally. It's more about the idea of simplifying your life,
Okay.
reducing your needs, your expenses.
So you need less income to live comfortably.
Exactly. It's a path that takes a lot of self-awareness, but it shows the power of conscious consumption.
Living within your means.
Right. Focusing on what truly matters.
But for those of us who aren't ready to, shave our heads and give up all our possessions,
Yeah.
there's got to be another way.
And there is, he says, the most compelling path is finding work that feels like play.
Work that feels like play, that's the dream.
Yeah, something you're intrinsically motivated to do.
When you love what you do, it doesn't feel like a chore.
Exactly. It becomes a source of energy, of fulfillment.
But finding that kind of alignment can be really tough.
It can be. But he encourages people to just be authentic.
Okay.
Follow your curiosity, experiment. Don't be afraid to try new things.
And remember specific knowledge.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it.
Finding that niche where your unique skills and passions can really shine.
Becoming the best in the world at what you do.
Even if it's something small or niche.
That mastery is what allows you to build leverage and ultimately freedom.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, beyond escaping the rat race, Naval also talks about this idea of saving yourself.
Yeah, it's a powerful concept.
What does he mean by that?
It's about personal responsibility, taking ownership of your own well-being.
Physically, mentally, emotionally.
Right, you can't rely on external sources to fix you.
So it's like becoming your own best advocate.
Exactly, your own health guru, your own therapist.
Like becoming the CEO of your own life.
I like that analogy, the CEO of your own life.
So what does that CEO focus on?
Diet, exercise, mindfulness, relationships. It's a holistic approach.
Recognizing that all these elements are interconnected.
Right, he even gets into specifics like cold showers, walking meetings, the 5 chimps theory.
He's all about giving practical advice.
Actionable steps you can take.
So saving yourself is about being proactive, making choices that align with your values,
Taking responsibility for your own health and happiness.
becoming the architect of your own destiny.
not just reacting to whatever life throws at you.
One final piece I want to touch on is judgment.
Yeah, it seems to be at the core of all his teachings.
He really emphasizes this quality.
Judgment is crucial because it guides our decisions.
He defines it as knowing the long-term consequences of your actions,
Being able to see beyond the immediate gratification.
understanding the ripple effects of your choices.
It's not just about making decisions that feel good in the moment.
It's about understanding the potential long-term impact.
Good judgment is essential for everything: relationships, career, even choosing what to eat.
It affects every area of our lives.
And Naval believes we can cultivate good judgment.
Through experience, reflection, learning from others,
Studying history, philosophy, learning from those who came before us
building that mental toolkit of frameworks and principles.
to help us make better decisions,
And one of the key principles is to focus on avoiding big mistakes.
rather than trying to always be right.
We're not going to get it right all the time.
But we can learn to minimize those big blunders that have lasting consequences.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here, exploring Naval's ideas on wealth, happiness, personal growth.
It's been a deep dive for sure.
His ideas are challenging, thought-provoking, sometimes even radical,
But they're always grounded in a deep understanding of human nature.
and a desire to help people live more fulfilling lives.
I think one of the most inspiring takeaways is that he believes anyone can achieve success and happiness.
It's not about luck or privilege. It's about making conscious choices.
Taking responsibility for your life, continuously learning and growing.
He encourages us to be bold, to take risks, to never stop pursuing our dreams.
And he reminds us that the journey is just as important as the destination.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we hope you've gained some valuable insights from Naval's philosophy.
Maybe even some inspiration to create a life that's truly aligned with your values and aspirations.
Remember, the journey is yours to create.
Keep learning, keep growing, and never stop exploring.
And who knows, maybe someday you'll be sharing your own wisdom with the world.